Cop killer smokes his own mother during shootout with police. Consider a scenario in which the boundaries between right and wrong get muddled, and it becomes a terrifying anarchy. Consider the following scenario. A desperate cop killer, besieged by law enforcement, takes a decision that is so shocking that it even shocks the most sober-minded individuals. What is it that motivates a person to the point where they are willing to perpetrate the unspeakable, even against their own biological family? Within the context of a terrifying confrontation with law enforcement, this story takes a horrible turn when the very person who brought him into this world becomes the unfortunate victim of his actions. What are the factors that cause a situation to balloon to such a terrifying degree? We want you to join us as we dig into the riveting tale of a police officer who, in a moment of insanity, turns his gun on the person who ought to have been his safest harbor. In spite of the fact that his client pulled the trigger that resulted in the deaths of both his mother and a North Dakota police officer during a shootout with law enforcement officers who were delivering eviction papers, the attorney representing the man who is accused of killing both of them stated on Tuesday that his client should not be found guilty of murder. Defense attorney Stephen Mottinger told a jury during his closing arguments that Salama Pendleton was experiencing extreme emotional disturbance because officers came to evict him and his mother from their Grand Forks apartment despite the ongoing coronavirus pandemic, and later because he thought officers had killed his mother, for whom he was the sole caretaker. It is obvious that he is troubled. The Mottinger stated that he did not have the awareness that he was the one responsible for her passing. He was frightened. I don't know what that might possibly be if it isn't a significant emotional disturbance. Following approximately 4 hours of deliberation, the jury was released for the day by the judge. Resuming their conversation was supposed to take place on Wednesday morning. During the month of May in the year 2020, Pendleton, who is 42 years old, is accused of killing his mother, Lola Moore, as well as Officer Cody Holte. As a result of authorities entering his residence, Pendleton allegedly shot his mother while firing indiscriminately at them. Holte was killed during a second round of gunfire, according to the investigators. A sheriff's deputy from Grand Forks County named Ron Nord, as well as Pendleton, were both injured in the incident. Pendleton reportedly planned for the confrontation by storing up on ammunition for his semi-automatic gun, according to the prosecutor for Grand Forks County, Carmel Madison. According to her, Pendleton used a high-velocity weapon with full metal jacket bullets to fire a mandatory minimum of 48 rounds. Blindly, Pendleton fired 20 rounds through the wall of the bedroom during the initial confrontation, according to Madison. He had no idea who was on the other side of the wall. The ballistics testing revealed that his mother was murdered by one of the bullets. In his statement, Madison stated that the defendant was the only person who was ready on May 27, 2020. He was waiting for law enforcement to open that door so that he could pull the trigger, she claimed. Pendleton was waiting. Given that Pendleton risks a sentence of life in prison without the possibility of release if he is found guilty of murder, Mottinger urged that he be charged with manslaughter instead. What a disaster he was. While this does not in any way justify his behavior, it does take a significant amount of time to explain it, doesn't it? For the jury, Mottinger stated, Pendleton could be found guilty of manslaughter or negligent homicide if the jury does not suspect that he is responsible for the death of the victim. As an additional requirement, the prosecution must demonstrate that Pendleton did not act in self-defense. If they are successful in this endeavor, Pendleton may be judged not guilty of any of the crimes. Self-defense, according to Madison, would not be applicable because there is no indication that the cops used excessive force. Instead, she stated that the officers were the ones who were actively protecting themselves. During his testimony, Pendleton stated that he had no intention of killing anyone and that his mother was accidentally hit by a bullet that ricocheted off of his own firearm. "I lost my mind, and I didn't know what to do," he claimed after he saw the body of his mother lying in a pool of blood. "I didn't know what," according to Madison. There is no evidence to support Pendleton's assertion that officers fired first. According to the findings of the investigation, it took less than a second for Pendleton to fire a bullet that went flying by Nord's head after he broke into Pendleton's bedroom. A total of 3 counts of attempted murder, criminal mischief, terrorizing, reckless endangerment, and possession of marijuana with the intent to supply are also included in the charges against Pendleton. According to the authorities, officers searching the residence discovered substantial quantities of the substance as well as cash and paraphernalia. As the 58th police officer in the state to pass away while on duty, Holta, who was 29 years old, was the first officer to be slain in Grand Forks since 1966. We are forced to confront the terrifying intricacies of the human experience as a result of the heartbreaking story of a cop killer who regrettably took the life of his own mother in the midst of a shootout with the police. We are compelled to wrestle with questions that strike at the core of our morals and the fabric of our society because it is a narrative that disturbs the very foundations of our thinking. What are the factors that cause a situation to reach such unimaginable heights, where the links of kinship are shattered in the midst of the turmoil of violence? The narrative serves as a jarring reminder of the unrefined and unpredictable nature of human behavior, which goes beyond the bounds of logic and reason. It encourages us to take a look into the depths of desperation, where even the most enduring familial bonds can be severed by the suffocating hold of dread and desperation. As we study the sequence of events that led up to this sad climax, we are presented with a sobering truth: that beneath the surface of society lies a primitive instinct that can drive humans to perform things that are beyond comprehension. What is it that drives someone to turn their weapon on their own flesh and blood, even when the odds are stacked against them? In order to shed light on the most obscure parts of the human brain, the story compels us to confront the harsh realities of criminality and violence. It serves as a sobering reminder that the boundary between good and evil, as well as sanity and insanity, can be extraordinarily thin, and that the repercussions of our acts can have far-reaching effects that are beyond our ability to truly comprehend. Furthermore, the narrative forces us to re-evaluate our perspectives on the interactions that we have with law enforcement and the effectiveness of the methods that we use to intervene in times of crisis. Would it have been possible to avoid this catastrophe by employing more efficient strategies for de-escalation or by establishing more robust support networks for mental health? This is a question that reverberates throughout the halls of the legal system, demanding answers that may be difficult to come by in the wake of such a devastating natural disaster. Nevertheless, there is a glimmer of optimism hidden within the middle of the despair. It is a call to action to reconsider the priorities that our society places on, and to devote ourselves to the construction of a world in which violence is not the solution, and in which compassion and understanding triumph over hatred and fear. In the end, the narrative of a cop killer who murders the life of his own mother serves as a sad mirror of the human condition, a cautionary tale that pushes us to confront the darkest corners of our collective conscience. It is a story that is not limited by the constraints of time and location. It resonates with audiences all across the world, and it encourages us to work toward a future in which tragedies of this nature are not merely headlines, but rather rallying cries for true change and reconciliation. Subscribe now to uncover the chilling truth behind the shocking tale of a cop killer whose desperate actions shattered the very bonds of family amidst a haunting shootout with law enforcement. Don't miss out on delving deeper into the complexities of human nature and the sobering realities of crime and its profound impact on society.